The morning had started quietly in the small cafe, a steady hum of conversation blending with a rich aroma of coffee. 𝗁𝐁 worked behind the counter, her movement smooth and practiced. Regulars filled their usual seats, and newcomers trickled in, seeking warmth and caffeine. Then the trouble started. A group of bikers had swaggered in, their presence an immediate disruption to the cafe's peaceful atmosphere. They were loud, demanding, and disrespectful, pushing their weight around as if the world owed them something. But their arrogance was met with an unexpected wall: Keanu. Seated near the window, Keanu had watched their antics unfold with quiet scrutiny. When they turned their attention toward a young waitress, their taunts taking an aggressive tone, he had simply stood, his presence alone enough to shift the dynamic. Words were exchanged, then fists. By the time the dust settled, 3 bikers were left groaning on the floor, and Keanu was the only one still standing. The cafe had slowly returned to normal, but 𝗁𝐁 knew better than to believe it was over. She could see it in Keanu's calm, in the way he lingered over his coffee, his posture at ease but his mind already working. The men he had put down wouldn't take their humiliation lightly. Her instincts were right. 2 men entered the cafe later that afternoon, one tall and broad-shouldered, the other wiry with a cool smirk. 𝗁𝐁 straightened behind the counter as she recognized their patches, the same gang as the morning's troublemakers. More people filled the cafe now, regulars and first-time customers alike, but that was both a blessing and a curse. More witnesses meant a lower chance of outright violence, but it also meant more potential victims if things escalated. The taller man leaned against the counter, his smirk never reaching his cold eyes. Heard some of our boys had a little misunderstanding here earlier. 𝗁𝐁 didn't flinch. We don't do misunderstandings. Her voice was firm. You ordering something or not? The wiry one chuckled. I like this one. Got some fire. The taller man ignored his companion, his gaze fixed on 𝗁𝐁. See, here's the thing. My friends don't like the way they were treated. And when they don't like something, they make sure it gets fixed. Keanu set his coffee down with slow deliberation, his gaze flicking up. The cafe's background noise felt muted, the tension thick enough to suffocate. 𝗁𝐁 exhaled through her nose. If you're here to threaten me, you can leave. The tall biker smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Threaten? No, just giving you a chance to make things right. He tapped the counter. Maybe next time you show a little more respect to the right people. Maybe next time things don't get messy. Keanu's chair scraped against the wooden floor as he stood. The wiry biker turned toward him, head tilting. Something to say. Friend? Keanu met his gaze, unreadable. Just wondering if you're done wasting time. The tall biker studied him, recognizing the quiet confidence in his stance. You the one that put my boys in the hospital? Keanu let the silence stretch before giving a slight nod. They picked a fight. Didn't end well for them. The biker's jaw tightened. You think it's over just like that? Keanu shrugged. Doesn't matter. For a long moment, the tall biker seemed to consider throwing the first punch. But instead, he leaned in, his voice a whisper. This isn't over. He turned sharply and shoved the door open, stalking into the street. His wiry friend lingered for a beat longer, flashing 𝗁𝐁 a slow, unsettling grin. Be seeing you. The cafe remained silent after they left. 𝗁𝐁 let out a breath. Well, that was fun. Keanu took a sip of his coffee. They'll be back. She huffed a humorless laugh. Yeah, I figured. And then, just as expected, they returned, this time with reinforcements. The tall biker entered first, followed by 4 more men. Their presence shifted the entire atmosphere of the cafe. Conversations died. Customers stiffened, some instinctively reaching for their phones. The wiry biker grinned wider than before, cocky now that they had the numbers advantage. The tall biker's eyes landed on Keanu. Still here? Keanu remained seated, his expression unreadable. You had your fun earlier, the biker said. Now it's our turn. 𝗁𝐁's hand inched toward the phone, but the wiry biker clicked his tongue. Wouldn't do that if I were you. Wouldn't want anyone to get hurt before things even start. Keanu's voice was steady. If you're smart, you'll walk out that door. The tall biker chuckled. See, that's the problem. You embarrass my guys. We can't let that slide. Keanu rolled his shoulders. 5 against 1. Seems desperate. The wiry biker laughed. Cocky for a guy about to get his ass kicked. Keanu took a step forward. The bikers stiffened. He was measuring them, mapping out the fight before it even started. Then the tall biker moved first. The fight erupted like a thunderclap. Keanu ducked the first wild swing, caught the biker's arm, and twisted, using momentum to send him crashing into a table. The second biker lunged. Keanu pivoted, grabbing the man's wrist and driving a knee into his stomach before shoving him down. The third and fourth came at him together. He blocked, countered, a jab to the throat, a knee to the ribs, a precise throw that sent a body sprawling. Chairs scraped, tables collapsed, and the cafe became a battleground. Some customers fled. Others watched, phones raised, recording every second. The tall biker groaned from the floor, glaring up at Keanu. "You don't know what you just did." Keanu stared down at him, cold and unmoved. "Yeah, I do." Sirens wailed in the distance. The bikers scrambled, their arrogance shattered. The wiry one cursed as he helped his friend up. "We got to go." They stumbled out just as police cruisers screeched to a halt outside. Detective Alvarez stepped out, eyes sweeping over the scene before landing on Keanu. He exhaled. "Why am I not surprised?" Keanu shrugged. "Bad timing." Alvarez smirked. "You always this calm when people try to kill you." Keanu tilted his head. "Not the first time." The detective shook his head, motioning to the officers. "Take them in." The bikers snarled threats as they were dragged away. Inside the cafe, Katrina leaned against the counter. "You didn't have to do that, you know." Keanu met her gaze. "Yeah, I did." She smirked, shaking her head. "You some kind of vigilante or something." Keanu smirked back. "Just a guy who likes his coffee in peace." She handed him a fresh cup. "This one's on the house." As Keanu stepped outside, the sun was just beginning to rise. The city moved on. Trouble had come knocking, but it had learned a lesson. Some doors shouldn't be opened twice. But trouble wasn't done with Keanu just yet. The gang had deeper connections, and soon enough, bigger threats were on the horizon.